Everyday products we use have incredible stories hidden inside factory walls. From the fizz inside a Coca-Cola bottle to the spark of a match. From creamy peanut butter to glass reborn as brand new bottles, and even the comfort of a mattress you sleep on, each has a fascinating journey. But how are they made? What machines, processes, and people bring them to life? Join us as we step inside the world's most fascinating factories to uncover the secrets of production, recycling, and innovation. This is How It's Made Factory Edition.
Peanut butter, the spread that single-handedly fuels kids' lunchboxes, bodybuilders' protein diets, and the occasional midnight, just one spoon disaster. But how does this creamy addiction get made? Let's find out. The journey begins with truckloads of peanuts. And no, they're not the circus kind your uncle eats while embarrassing himself. These are carefully selected runner peanuts, prized because they roast evenly and don't look like mutant leftovers. Fun fact, it takes about 1,100 peanuts to fill one jar. Yeah, the same number your cousin Raj eats in one sitting when he says, "Bas thoda aur." First stop, the roaster. Here, peanuts tumble around in a hot air chamber reaching nearly 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Basically, it's a peanut sauna, except instead of cucumber water, they get roasted alive. A perfectly even roast means maximum flavor, unless the machine decides to have a nervous breakdown, which apparently helps roast them more evenly anyway. Who knew malfunctions could be so productive? Next, the freshly roasted peanuts are rushed into a cooling chamber. Think of it like going from a desert straight into an AC movie theater. This step locks in the peanut oils, ensuring your peanut butter is smooth instead of tasting like old cardboard. Now comes the blancher, a giant contraption that strips the peanuts of their skins and bitter little hearts. It's like a spa treatment, if the spa treatment involved being shredded alive. The bitter parts are tossed aside, leaving only the good stuff. Somewhere in the corner, barrels of peanut skins pile up, waiting for absolutely no one to claim them. Then comes the grinder. This is where the real magic happens. The peanuts are dropped into what I like to call the point of no return. Giant steel blades crush them down until they become a golden paste. It happens so fast, you'd think the peanuts signed up for a speedrun challenge. At this stage, extra ingredients are added: sugar, salt, sometimes stabilizers, and oil. Basically, the stuff that makes peanut butter spreadable instead of sticking your mouth shut like industrial glue. This is also the stage where creamy and crunchy versions are born. Creamy lovers say it's smooth perfection. Crunchy lovers say it has texture. And I say both sides need therapy. Finally, the peanut butter makes its way into jars. A row of glass or plastic containers glide along a conveyor belt, and each one gets filled with precision no human hand could ever match. The jars are capped, sealed, and labeled before being boxed up and shipped to supermarkets everywhere. And just like that, your peanut butter is ready. From humble peanut to creamy addiction, the process is both industrial and oddly satisfying. So next time you scoop a spoonful straight from the jar, don't lie, I know you do, remember the army of machines and roasted peanut corpses that made it possible. Have you ever stopped to think about the tiny matchstick in your hand? It looks so simple, but the process of making it is a fascinating combination of science and engineering. Let's step inside a match factory and see how matches are really made. The journey begins with the match head compound. In a large industrial mixer, workers pour potassium chloride, a key oxidizing chemical. To bind everything together, they dissolve gelatin in hot water, which blends with the potassium powder to create a sticky base. Silica granules are then added. These act as combustion control agents, making sure the flame burns at just the right speed. As the mixer runs, the worker rinses the sides with water to keep the blend consistent. After nearly 40 minutes, when the mixture has become smooth and liquid, red coloring and other chemicals are added to give the match its signature spark and burn. Meanwhile, the wooden splints are being prepared. Factories often use aspen wood, which is splintered into thin sticks. These splints are treated with ammonium phosphate, a fire retardant that prevents them from glowing after the flame goes out. The sticks then pass across perforated plates to shake off dust and residue, while an automatic machine discards any broken or undersized splints. Now it's time to dip. An automatic feeder loads over 2 million splints per hour into perforated steel match bars, which move along an endless chain. First, the splints are coated with paraffin wax. This helps the flame transfer smoothly from the head to the wood. Then, the bars lower the splints into the match head compound for about 5 seconds. As the bars rise, the excess mixture drains back into the pan for reuse. From here, the chain carries the matches on a looping path for nearly an hour. This slow up and down journey ensures that the match heads dry thoroughly and evenly. Once dry, the matches are strong, reliable, and ready for packaging. At the filling line, machines work at incredible speed. Inner and outer matchbox liners are routed along conveyors, while the filling machine inserts the finished matches. At peak capacity, the system can pack around 500 boxes per minute, about 200 matches every single second. The boxes are then sealed, bundled into cartons, and prepared for shipping worldwide. From chemical mixing to precision drying to high-speed packaging, it's an incredible amount of work for such a small tool. And yet, it only takes a single match to light your fire. Have you ever wondered what goes into making the mattress you sleep on every night? Behind the comfort of a good night's rest is a fascinating process that happens inside large factories. Today, we're taking you inside a modern mattress manufacturing plant in the United States to see how raw materials are turned into the beds we rely on for years of comfort. The process begins with raw materials, rolls of fabric, huge blocks of foam, and steel wires for springs. These arrive at the factory in bulk and are carefully inspected to make sure they meet quality standards. Foam is one of the key ingredients in a mattress, and it comes in large sheets or blocks. Using high-tech cutting machines, the foam is sliced into precise shapes and thicknesses. Each layer has a specific purpose. Some add softness, while others provide support. At the same time, steel wires are coiled and formed into springs. These springs are then joined together to create the inner core, which acts as the foundation of the mattress. Once the spring units are ready, workers and machines begin layering materials on top. First comes a protective layer that separates the springs from the foam. Then, layers of different foams and padding are stacked carefully. These layers determine how soft or firm the mattress will feel, and manufacturers often design multiple variations to meet different customer preferences. A softer mattress may have more plush foam, while a firmer one uses denser layers for strong back support. The top fabric, known as the ticking, is then prepared. Giant quilting machines stitch the fabric together with padding to create a durable and comfortable cover. You may notice decorative patterns on the surface of mattresses, and these designs are not just for looks. They help keep the layers in place and add extra reinforcement. Once the quilted fabric is ready, it's stretched over the layered core and aligned perfectly. Next comes one of the most important steps: assembly. Skilled workers and automated sewing machines secure the mattress by stitching the sides firmly in place. This ensures that the materials inside stay tight and won't shift around with use. The edges are reinforced with heavy-duty binding to keep the mattress strong and long-lasting, and brand labels are attached to identify the manufacturer. Before a mattress leaves the factory, it must go through strict quality control. Special machines press down on the surface to test durability, simulating years of use in just minutes. Inspectors check for any flaws in stitching, fabric, or shape. Only mattresses that pass these tests are approved for packaging. Have you ever wondered what happens to that glass bottle you just tossed away? Most people think it's gone forever once it hits the bin, but the truth is, glass is one of the most magical materials on Earth. Unlike plastic, it never loses its quality, no matter how many times it's recycled. The journey begins with collection. In many countries, people return bottles through special machines that scan, sort, and even give a small refund. From there, trucks haul thousands of bottles to massive recycling plants, where mountains of green, brown, and clear glass wait for their next life. The first step is cleaning and sorting. Vibrating screens shake off dirt and sand. Workers remove paper and plastics, and magnets pull out metal caps. Next, giant hammer mills crush the bottles into sparkling fragments called cullet. Cullet is the secret ingredient of glass recycling. It melts far faster than raw materials and saves up to 40% of the energy normally needed. Once perfectly pure, the cullet is mixed with sand, soda ash, and limestone. The mixture is then heated in furnaces hotter than molten lava, over 1,200 degrees Celsius. After hours of heat, the glowing mass becomes liquid glass. Now comes the rebirth. The liquid is cut into glowing gobs, dropped into molds, and shaped by powerful air blasts. Within seconds, the glass is blown into bottles, glowing red before slowly cooling in long tunnels. Each bottle is inspected by high-speed cameras, and only the flawless ones move forward. Finally, they're washed, filled, capped, and shipped, ready to be used again. This is how yesterday's waste becomes tomorrow's bottle. But the story doesn't end there. That very same recycled glass can also be turned into something far more beautiful: marbles and crystal balls. Instead of molds for bottles, streams of molten glass are cut into glowing gobs. These are rolled into perfect spheres, shaped by machines and skilled workers. As they cool, the marbles harden into flawless balls of glass. Some are crystal clear, while others are infused with colors and swirling patterns, making each one unique. The final step is polishing. Each marble and crystal ball is smoothed and shined until it sparkles like a gemstone. Then they're sorted, packed, and shipped across the world, used for decoration, games, or even luxury displays. From recycling bins to shining crystal balls, this is the true magic of glass, a material that never dies, only transforms. Glass recycling isn't just about saving energy. It's about proving that waste can be reborn into both function and beauty. If you enjoyed this journey from broken bottles to stunning crystal balls, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing factory productions. Every single day, nearly 800 million servings of Coca-Cola are consumed worldwide, making it the most iconic soft drink on the planet. But how is it actually made inside the factory? Surprisingly, the process is less about the secret syrup and more about one of the most advanced bottling and packaging systems in the world. The formula for Coca-Cola remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in history. A concentrated syrup is produced at undisclosed facilities and shipped to bottling plants across the globe. Here, the syrup is mixed with purified water and sweetener, sugar in most countries, but high fructose corn syrup in the United States. This step only takes a fraction of the entire production process, yet it's the foundation of Coca-Cola's unique taste. Once the base syrup is blended, carbon dioxide gas is added to create the signature fizz, and now the drink is ready for bottling. This is where the real magic of Coca-Cola's production begins. Every year, billions of aluminum cans are produced. But how are they made? It all begins with giant aluminum rolls, stretched thin like paper. A stamping press punches out discs, then stretches them into cup shapes. These cups are drawn through molds, forming the tall, thin walls of the can. Next, machines trim the edges, wash away oil, and coat the inside with a special lining to prevent corrosion. Finally, the top is necked, flanged, and fitted with a lid. In less than a second, a simple sheet of aluminum becomes a perfectly sealed can, ready to hold your favorite drink. High-speed filling machines take over, capable of filling hundreds of bottles every single minute. The bottles and cans are sterilized, rinsed, and then fed into massive fillers where precise valves dispense the perfect amount of Coke at just the right temperature. Immediately after, caps and lids are sealed in place using automated capping machines, while scanners check every single unit to detect even the smallest defect. Any rejected bottle or can is recycled instantly back into the system. From here, the focus shifts entirely to packaging. Bottles pass through warmers that bring them to room temperature to prevent condensation on the packaging. Once stabilized, they move along conveyor belts where robotic arms group them into 6-packs, 12-packs, or larger cases. Cans are often bound with plastic rings or placed into cardboard cartons, while bottles are shrink-wrapped in tight protective plastic. Automated systems then stack these cases neatly onto pallets, with each pallet holding hundreds of bottles or cans ready for shipment. The scale of this operation is astonishing. A single Coca-Cola bottling line can produce millions of servings per day, and every case must be identical in taste, quality, and packaging, whether it's made in the United States, Europe, or Asia.